Swag Surf, the latest and greatest college game day tradition. And for today's episode, we've got the man that put it on the map, DJ Ben Bruud. He's also known for his awesome theme nights. Taylor Swift night, Morgan Wallen night, Drake, One Direction, all the latest, greatest artists. He's brought them to you here in Auburn. Be sure to catch him next at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the SEC Championship game. Now let's hear from the man himself and the craziest stories from his gigs and how he became your favorite DJ. Would you say like your high school stuff, if they could see you now, would they believe you? Like if you went back in time and like, bitch, like you're going to have like no idea what you become.
High school me would be like, wow, you really did something cool. Like, and I would be proud of myself for not being boring, I guess.
Yeah. Like you're not a nerd.
Well, I still am a nerd, but it's like, it helped me put time into researching and getting good at it, as opposed to me just jumping into it and be like, yeah, I want to do this and then failing, you know?
Yeah.
So I would say that part of me helped create what I am today. So
do you ever get like any off the wall type gigs? Like what are some of the craziest gigs you've ever gotten?
One comes to mind immediately. It would be a time that I went to Florida with my mentor, and we ended up meeting up with one of his buddies, and he said, you guys want to come to this nudist colony and do a pool party? And the answer is not no. I would say is probably one of the more wild gigs that I've done.
Were they actually all naked?
Yes. So the resort would host like a pool party on Sundays called Skinny Dip Sundays, where they would allow people from outside of the resort to come in. And it's a nice, really nice resort. You go through gates, and then there's this long winding road with like houses. And literally, as soon as we go up these winding like roads, next thing there's an old man out there just washing his car naked. And I'm like, well, hi, we're here. And we get set up and we start, playing music, and everybody is naked. And
are they all flaccid, like guys?
Why are you worried about that?
I'm so curious. Like if you're walking around naked, like, and if you get like,
that's what's on your mind right now. You didn't even let me get started. That was the first thing that went to your mind. Like,
you said naked.
Are they flaccid?
Yeah, I'm sure everyone would be dying to know if you saw like people walking around with, non-flaccid penises.
We'll get to that. Stories get better. So we're playing music, and everybody's naked, and it's a bunch of older people, as generally the communities are. It was interesting to see them just like out there, like it was weird because like everybody's naked, and most people when they're naked are a little self-conscious. They were out there like old people, just saggy titties and like having a good time, smiles on their face, and like everybody was having a good time.
Watching bounce a little bit.
Yeah, I had a group of 3 old ladies come up and like, we love your music, and they're just dancing in front of me. I'm like, thank you, and like I had a good time. There were some interesting characters there. They had one guy, his name was Coke Can for an obvious reason. Then there was another guy that had cock rings, but like rainbow colored, going all the way down his dick. Guys had their dicks pierced. It was and the old ladies were, just as wild.
That is insane.
That would probably be the weirdest and like most outrageous gig that I've done.
Did you ever want to go back?
I think it would be fun. I would like to go back and like DJ and like prepare more for it, because I think it would be a lot of fun.
Would you do it naked?
Yes. So the first.
Wait. Did you do this gig naked?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay. Did your mentor?
No.
Okay.
So none of the people that were DJing were naked, because it was just kind of like we were there to play music. But I think if I went back, I would do it.
You totally would.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess we got to go find this resort and then just get an army of like Auburn people to go and support.
Oh my God.
What's another gig?
I was booked for an event in Mobile. I guess Mobile weather is always rainy, but this time it was like monsoon level rain. I'm like, oh, it's going to be a terrible night, because nobody's like, literally I walked outside this is at like 8:30 or something, just to see what it looked like. And literally the street, that much water. I was like, oh, people are not going to be coming out in this.
Oh,
I was like disappointed. It's like, am I going to get paid? Do I have to DJ if nobody shows up? But also, am I still getting paid? So I set up all my gear, and 9 o'clock, whenever doors open, I start playing. There's like nobody in there. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be a bad night. And then all of a sudden, people start coming in, and it was like people dressed in nice clothes, like dresses, suits, and like middle-aged crowd. And I'm like, oh, the party's going well. There's probably like 40, 50 people there. So it was still like sparse and thin, but I was like, thank God people are here because I was like, this is going to be a terrible night. My buddy that was traveling with me at the time, he was like, kind of weird, don't you think? I'm like, I didn't really notice anything. I was like, no, not really. So he walked off. And so I start like looking around. I'm like,
Like what prompted him to say that?
yeah, I was like, they're all like just middle-aged people out dressed up, having a good time. And then he comes back and he's like, dude, some dude's wife just came up and grabbed my dick. And I was like, yeah, dude, something's weird. I was like, okay, whatever. And so I continued DJing and I'm like, oh, that's weird. Well, be careful because like I'm not trying to get you beat up by some dude's husband. And then I start really watching and I'm like, noticing, I'm like, that's not the same woman he was dancing with, and that's not the same man she was dancing with. And I'm like, and they'll have like wedding rings, and I'm like, this is getting interesting. And then I put two and two together, and I'm like, this is a swingers event.
Oh no.
And I'm like, that would make so much more sense. And as soon as I made that realization, like some woman just pulls her dress up like over her head and she's completely naked. And I'm like, this is new to me. I've never been in this environment.
You're like, now it's a party.
Yeah. And I was like, in the security, nobody's doing anything about something. I guess they knew something that I didn't.
Wait, did they all get naked?
No, they weren't naked. Like she just pulled her dress up. She wasn't naked the whole time. But it was like not things you would normally do.
Yeah.
And people were like swapping partners on the dance floor. I was like, okay. And then there was a girl that came down to visit me while I was there, and she didn't realize this either. And she was hanging out with them, and then she went upstairs on the mezzanine level with them, and she came back down. And she was like, "They want me to come back, or they want us to come back with them." And so they were trying to get me and her to go back with them to the after party.
I've seen movies about this, man. Like,
yeah, I mean, and it's like storming. So I was like, this is like
red flags all around.
Yeah, so that was an interesting night to say the least.
Did you get paid?
Yes, I got paid. And as they were leaving the group, they came up in there, giving me like hundreds and 20s. And I was like, oh, thank you guys, and they all had a great time.
Did you end up going back to the after party?
No, I did not.
Aside from like, the DJ gigs, you also do events. What are some of the events that you like putting on?
Recently, I've started doing like themed events for artists. Taylor Swift is a big one. So we do Taylor Swift nights that I've hosted. I think I've done 4 now total. And then I've done One Direction, Justin Bieber, Drake, Pitbull, Morgan Wallen. But it's kind of like a newer thing that I've started doing. I've seen, people have done these before. It's not like a new concept, but it's something that I think is a great idea. Current situation of like concert ticket prices, it's kind of absurd. And so, I'm hosting these theme nights where it's kind of like you're at the concert, but for like $10. I bring in giant video walls and essentially do like play their music videos or live footage from their concerts, have like little clips of their like careers. And I try to create a concert type feel for the people who are fans of these people that may not get to go see them in concert. Maybe some of these artists are not even touring anymore. So it's kind of a new concept for me that I'm trying to like put my own spin on and make it like really fun.
So the first time that you ever did like a Taylor Swift night, did you think it was going to be like really successful right off the bat? Or was it something that you were kind of taking a risk on?
The amount of money that I was putting into, I was like, I know I'll at least break even. Like I had that feeling, but I was like, I don't know beyond that if it's going to be like wildly accepted or just kind of like, oh, that sounds fun. And then like, I break even and then I just don't ever do it again. The first one, as soon as we put it up, it sold out in like an hour. I was like, oh, okay.
It's Taylor Swift, of course.
Yeah, but like it's one of those things like, are the people going to be that interested in something like that? Like I get it. People love Taylor Swift, but also do they love her enough to go to like a theme night for her on a Wednesday night in the middle of, the spring?
You got to do all these other different nights as well. Are those just as successful as Taylor Swift night?
In their own degrees, yes. I put a lot of work into them to make them really good nights. So even if you don't necessarily like an artist, like a fanatic, you're not like a fan, I think if you come to those nights, you'll still have a good time. Because I try to make it for the regular person that maybe knows like 3 or 4 songs or 5 songs, their hits, whatever. then the fanatics, they're going to have an amazing time. So I still try to include the people who are not like super fans into these events. It's going to be a good night all around. And it's like, I would say they're all successful. I had, somewhere not as many people show up, but I still have a great time. And I think the people that are there have a great time.
And it gives you an opportunity to learn a little bit more about the artists and then to kind of appreciate their artistry just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Would you ever want to do something for like the community? Like obviously not everyone can go to a Taylor Swift night that's at a bar. Would you ever want to do something like that for the kids maybe that are big into Taylor Swift in the community?
I've toyed with the idea of that, but I just haven't put it into action yet because it would require a lot of work, and I need a venue that's not a bar, and I want to do it big. That's another thing. So I have to find a venue that's big enough because I think it would be a hit.
It would be so fun.
But it's going to be a lot of work, and I've got a really busy schedule. So that's something like that I would plan during the summer or something.
Aside from like, just DJing at the bar and stuff, is there anything that's ever happened while you were at the bar that you just could not believe happened?
I've seen people having sex in the club, and that's not something you could like hear about, yeah, I saw it, but like I've seen it live, and I'm like, oh.
You didn't do anything about it?
No,
just tell the security like, hey.
Well, I looked over to my left, and there is a girl, and a guy, and I look at the bouncer. I'm like, they're having sex over there, and he's like, what do I do? I'm like, I don't know. And
what's the protocol?
I'm like, do you let them finish, or do you interrupt? I mean, like what? So I was like, you figure it out, and he let him go for like 30 more seconds, and then he was like, tapped the guy on the shoulder, like, hey, you got to go, and then he escorted them out.
Ew, man.
I've seen a wild brawl, like tables being thrown, like 30, 40 people fighting. The song that I was playing, I think it was Apologize by One Republic and Timbaland.
What a soundtrack for that.
That's what I was saying. Like, to me, it's funny because of the song that was playing while this wild, event is occurring.
Would you say anything crazy ever happens in like the DJ booth? Because I've had crazy shit happen to me in the DJ booth that has, just wild stories. Do people always make out in like your DJ booth and stuff?
In more or less ways, yes. And that would be considered light work for what I've seen. I've seen people kissing, but kissing not with their, one person's kissing with their mouth and the other person is receiving that kiss somewhere else.
What is the most annoying thing that somebody could do while you're like DJing?
Probably hold up a phone with a song request on it. Or like even like that's fine, but if you hold it up for longer than like 30 seconds or like not even like more than 10 seconds, it's like I've seen it. I understand. I might play it. I don't know. It just depends on if it's a good song or not. But there's no need to hold it up in my face for a minute and a half, 2 minutes, like, or just to keep doing it. Like that makes me want to play it less. So
I don't do requests in general.
I do. I think sometimes it can be helpful figuring out who your crowd is. So before Old Town Road was popular, I had a group of equestrian girls request it because they just won something, and I was like, "It's an interesting song." Of course, the horse girls knew about Old Town Road before everybody else did, and I was like, "I'll play it." And then first time I played it, nobody knew it except for them. And then like 2 weeks later, it was like the #1 song. So I was like, "Oh, I felt good because I had already had it and understood it." And I thanked them. I was like, "Well, thank you guys for putting that song in my radar."
How did you end up getting the opportunity to play for like Auburn football and basketball?
I think in 2017, I got an email from the director of marketing, and he was like, we're trying to do something new this year. We're looking at DJs to bring in during the games to make the experience better in the stadiums because they didn't have a DJ prior to me being there. And so I went and I met with them. We talked about it, and I think, they were pleased with what I had to say, and then decided to go with me and have that experience.
Have you enjoyed it since then? Like, is it crazy? Like the setup and just making sure that the timing is right and everything that you do?
So the first year was like the most stressful because I'd never done anything like that. And each consecutive year gets easier and easier. So, that, and it's just like second nature to me now. And as far as timing goes with music, the key is to not overthink it, but just be prepared and do your best. And that's kind of what you have to do every game, and like realize that you're not going to get everything perfect because it is literally a game and stuff is changing, things are happening, and you just got to try to be as prepared as you can, but you're never going to be perfect.
Do you make like your own edits?
So I end up making a lot of edits because I have to shorten a lot of things because the amount of time I have to fill in a space can sometimes be like 2 seconds. So I have to be, or it could be like, 2 minutes. So you have to like think about that when timeouts are and stuff like that. And then you also have to interact with the band, the video board content. And so it's just a lot going on all at once. And this is all happening while I have people talking in my ears about other things that are happening. Like they're, going over
Like the video board.
yeah, and like they're chatting and like I have to hear that while I'm like trying to play music or think about what I'm going to play next while watching the game and like creating that environment for us, like hopefully to bring the energy up.
What would you say is the most difficult part about doing all of that?
The preparation before the game, because once I'm in the game, it's like it
Go,
just
go, go.
yeah, so it's not bad, but I would say preparation.
Can you feel the energy when you're in there?
Oh yeah, not as well as I'd like to be able to because I have
You have a million things going on.
well that
yeah.
I have an earpiece and then I have like a sound dampening earpiece in the other ear so I can hear when I'm DJing, but I don't get to hear the crowd as much. But you can like visually see it. But I would like sometimes to be able to just hear the crowd, but I can't hear them as well because I have so much stuff on my ears, and it's kind of disappointing that I don't get to that experience. But you can feel it. In Jordan Hare this year, they had me in the student section, but I can feel like the bleachers like moving. I'm like, oh, this is a
That's
lot of
pretty
fun.
cool.
Yeah.
Would you say it's different during basketball season? Like, do you have the same kind of setup going on where you can't necessarily hear them? But I mean, in basketball, like you're much closer to the floor and like closer to the student section at that point, right?
Well, now I'm in the student section for football. So in previous years, I hadn't been. So I'm getting that experience with football. But yes, for basketball, they have people like right behind me, and I can feel it when they're screaming, like the spit,
Ew.
like hitting me on the back of my head. And I'm like, well, that's how we know it's a good game. And I'm like, okay, I like this. And I also like I played.
Don't spit on him, please.
I played basketball, so I like basketball a lot more than football, I'd say. And so I enjoy it a little bit more.
It's faster paced.
It's faster paced.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I enjoy. Because once things start happening, it's like less TV timeouts and it's like people getting injured. And like basketball just keeps going. And I'm like, and the energy can build and hit like, the really high spot.
One of the big things about being the DJ at, Jordan Hare is Swag Surf.
Right.
So how did Swag Surf start?
I can't remember. This is 6 years ago. So I don't remember the exact timeline of things, how it all occurred. Earlier in the season, we played a couple times and it didn't go over at all. But then it got on Twitter. People were clowning us because they're like, oh, that's the worst Swag Surf we've ever seen. So then the students took that to heart and they're like, oh, we're going to make it better. And so a lot of the students got together and they started informing and educating other students. So we did it another game and then it was better, but it still wasn't the best. I think we had about half the student section doing it. And then the Georgia game rolls around. We were supposed to lose that game, I think, and we ended up winning. So I don't remember what part of the game it was, but I play it and the whole student section goes wild because everybody knows it at that point because we've been clowned enough on the internet. And we beat Georgia and the energy was super high and like the song was like,
it was perfect.
It was a perfect song for the perfect moment. And so then we played Alabama like 2 weeks later, I think, at home, and a similar like situation. I think they were number one. I don't remember. This is still high energy. I was like, we decide we're gonna play at a certain point, and like it works again, and like it blows the roof off the building, and we win. And then at that point, people were just like, we have to do this.
When do you typically play Swag Surf during the game?
It is always third, fourth quarter break.
That's pretty cool. Are there any other songs that you play at very specific times?
There's kind of like staple songs that I have kind of picked over the years just to fill like very specific moments. We recently just did Freebird right before the Eagle flight, and that resonated really well with the crowd. And I don't know why I didn't think about it
You're literally freeing a bird.
Yeah, well, like it was just like I was riding and listening into my car. I was like, I could play this before we, release the bird. Why have I not thought of this? Or why hasn't anybody even suggested? Like I was like, this makes too much sense. So that's like the new one.
And it's gone over pretty well?
Oh yeah. It's become a permanent fixture of the pregame.
Yeah.
And then I'll play like Welcome to the Black Parade by My Chemical Romance before the band takes the field for the first time pregame, when they do their march out, because it's talking about going to see a marching band. Then I have some specific kickoff songs that I think work really well. And then we have Pursuit of Happiness, which is always like a go-to. But those would be some of the big ones.
During like warm-ups and stuff, do you have more free range of what you're playing? Do you get feedback from like the players? How involved are they in the music selection for you?
So preseason, I'll get like a list of songs that they want in their warm-up music, and then I'll go through it and then clean it.
No profanity.
And like really suggestive themes. I have to censor that, and then I have to like figure out if the song even sounds good after all the cleaning of it. If it doesn't, I just won't play it. But they give me enough to work with that I can generally create a good list.
Does the same thing kind of go for basketball? Do you have like certain songs that you play in basketball?
Basketball would be less like
structured.
Yeah, for that I don't have as much like.
There's no eagle flying inside the
No
arena.
eagle. I'll play like basketball oriented songs like March Madness, and stuff like that. So by Future.
How did you want to like become a DJ?
It was never a priority to become a DJ. I ended up throwing like house parties and stuff like that because I like to dance and I liked being around people that were having a good time. Even though I don't like to party, like when I say I don't like to party, it's more the drinking, the drugs, and all the like that part of the party. I just enjoy being around people, being able to have parties and stuff like that where people were having a good time. A lot of the dance parties that we threw were like, there was no alcohol. It was just people having a good time. A lot of my friends were like, well, you should be a DJ, because we would just dance. Like I would prepare all the music and we would just dance and have a good time and hang out. And I was like, it seems like a good idea. So
how'd you get your first start? Like, did you get a controller and then just kind of like worked at it, or what'd you do?
Oh, essentially the first step, I just played off of a laptop. And then the more I grew to like it, I invested more time and money into it. And then I got a small controller and then practiced on that a lot. Then I moved to Auburn.
Did you move to Auburn to DJ?
No, I came to school.
What'd you study?
So I studied a little bit of everything. So I went to community college before I came to Auburn, and I was studying forestry. And then I came to Auburn and was studying mechanical engineering. And then I realized I hated that. And then I went to geology after that. And then I realized I hated that. But I started making money as a DJ towards that, like towards the end of all that, and decided that I was going to drop out and just pursue that.
So what was like your first gig that you ever, like a first paying gig that you ever got?
I did a competition to play at a music festival in Birmingham. And it was like, I got second place in the competition, and it allowed you to play, and then they paid you.
What was the competition like? Was it like crowd feedback or?
No, it was like you recorded a video mix and put it up on Facebook, and people would like and comment, and you had to share and do all that stuff. But I was at a community college, so I just got everybody in the student center to watch this video and then comment on it. So that's kind of how I ended up getting second place.
So then from there, when did you start getting like your bigger gigs in Auburn? Like, how did that happen?
So I started at a small hip hop club, and that was kind of my training ground, I would say. That was my real first like club gig, and I didn't really know a lot about club DJing, but that's where I met one of my mentors, and he helped me a lot in understanding more about DJing and like how it really works. Because I was like just going based off what I was like, this is what a DJ should do, but he was like had good grounds for me to start, and good explanations and techniques and all sorts of good things to help me get the bigger gigs. And so I just treated that as like I wasn't stepping stone at that time. I was like, wow, this is really fun because somebody's paying me to play music, and it was like exciting.
Did you only play music there, or did they have you do other things at the bar as well?
Whenever it's something I've learned as a DJ, it's like whenever you're in a bar, you essentially can play any role. Like sometimes I'll play security, or sometimes I'll play like door guy or bartender, but very like small pieces and parts. And so like one night I bartended there, and I have no experience of that, and yeah, it didn't end up very well. Somebody ordered like a Crown and Coke, and I was like, I don't know how much Crown to put in this. So I just kind of poured it like halfway and
Oh,
then
no.
topped it off with a little bit of Coke, and I was like, because none of the bartenders were there, and I was like, well, this is odd, but I'll help.
I can imagine you doing that at Skybar now. If somebody wanted you to like bartender fill in, like that would be kind of tough.
I'll help the kitchen, the Sky Kitchen. So I'll
That's
go.
different.
I can hand out a hot dog. So,
But you can't make drinks.
I could probably I would count to like 3.5, 4 somewhere in there, and then cut it. And I could do the basic drinks. But if you get something like mixed, I wouldn't even know where to begin.
After your time at this bar, where did you go after that? Like, when did you start gravitating towards downtown Auburn?
Somebody got stabbed in the club. That was me being pushed to figure out other means to find gigs, because the next day I showed up because I was like, oh, it's just somebody got stabbed. So I was like, they'll probably be open. And I get to the club the next weekend, and there's a tractor in front of the doors with chains on it. I'm like, I guess I'm not working, because nobody decided to tell me that they were closed for good. And I was like, oh, now what do I do? My mentor, his name is Michael Rayner. He was good friends with some of the bar owners downtown, and he proposed that we do like a Halloween party at 1716, and that was my first like downtown gig, and it went really well. So we worked out something with the owners, and we started doing like weekly events at 1716 and Coyotes.
I think one of my favorite memories about your DJing is that it was Halloween, and I remember like walking down the street, and all of a sudden I could hear Skrillex coming out of like Moe's barbecue. And then at that time, like EDM hadn't really like taken off, at least in this area, because most of the time it was just, your basic hip hop. Then like all of a sudden like Skrillex is on, and I'm like, whoa, this is definitely different. Like I'm gonna pop in and check this out real quick. And then like you just had like a really, really like awesome mix of music. Do you think that you kind of like keep that same vibe in your sets now?
I would say yes, but it comes in like it just depends on my mood, and also the people that I think are in the building at the time. Because some people, I think if it's a majority, if I think they can handle hearing something a little bit different than what they're used to, like I'll play it. But there's some nights where I'm like, this is not the crowd to be like testing out new things, or they're not wanting that experience. So you have to kind of like gauge where your crowd is at. Because some nights, yes, you can go way off the tracks and try different things, and they'll love it. And you try that on another night, and people just like, what is he doing? I just want to hear, Kesha. Like they don't want to hear remixes. They want to hear the originals. And you kind of have to and that's in the beginning of the night, you can kind of like play around, because it's the beginning of the night. Nobody's really like worried about, they're not going to leave immediately or pass judgment. They're like, oh, it's the beginning, whatever. So you can that's when I find out what kind of crowd it's going to be. I'll play and see where they're at. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be this kind of crowd, and I'm going to stick with this path. Or, it might be the one where I try out different stuff, and they're just going to eat up whatever I give them. So
What would you say makes you a successful DJ?
I think it's the amount of time that I put into like researching out about everything, so I have an understanding of what it is. And I don't think a lot of people put time into that. Like there's a lot of DJs out there, and some are better than me, some are worse. But I think having understanding of your equipment, music, and dancing, like people and what they want to experience when they come out, that helps a lot. And I put a lot of time into thinking about these things.
So what's a lazy day for you? Do you play video games? Do you watch TV, movies?
I'll wake up and make a bowl of cereal. And then I will sometimes pace my house and just think. I'll play some video games, and then I'll go eat lunch with one of my friends, and we'll sit and talk for like 2 hours. I really enjoy that. I enjoy having conversations about
Life
and people, and like just interesting topics, not necessarily the typical things. And that would be and then I would go home, take a nap, and then I might go to the gym. It's a lazy day, but like for me, it would be like I'm not working.
Yeah.
But like I would go to the gym and exercise, and then come home and probably watch something on TV. That would be my lazy day. Just nice, relaxed. I might even cut my grass. Because because I find joy in that. I am
You're an old man now.
I'm a grass cutter, and I like tending to it.
Do you tell kids to get off your lawn?
No, when the school bus goes by, though, they do scream at me. Yeah, that's where the Mr. Clean nickname comes from. I've heard it's Mr. Clean, and then the bus drives by. I'm like, yep. So I just wave.
Is that like just become a staple for you? Like you're just the bald guy everywhere now?
I would say, I mean, it's very recognizable in a college town because like everybody has hair or like a majority. And so you see a guy in a college bar and he's bald. It's like, how many other bald guys are there? So I kind of ran with it. It is me as part of my identity, but I'm not embarrassed of it or ashamed. And like a lot of people are.
Did you shave your head or like, do you have hair or is it just gone?
I do have hair, but I shave it like every 2 to 3 days.
What happens if you don't?
It gets fuzzy.
How much money would it take for you to just grow out your hair for like a few months?
I've thought about it and I was like, I don't think people would recognize me. So I have chosen not to do that. And it's just become part of my identity. It'd be weird to see me with hair, I think.
But what are some of like your favorite nicknames that people call you about just being bald in general?
A lot of people like to call me Mr. Clean. That's the typical one.
But you've also dressed up as Mr. Clean.
I did. I might do it again for Halloween. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I don't really have that. I mean, there's probably nicknames that people have that I haven't heard.
We'll get to that later. But yes, there are definitely some nicknames.
And like, I'm okay with people talking about it because I'm like, it's fine. And people are like, well, that's kind of like some of their friends be like, well, that's offensive. I'm like, it's only offensive if I'm upset about it, which
You've embraced it.
Yeah, it's me. So I'm like, if you want to make fun of me, then I'm like, and if I can tell somebody's being malicious, then I'll clap back at him and be like, well, you're ugly. And then I'll just leave it at that and walk away. So, and that generally does the trick. It's very simple. And then they're going to think about that more than I thought about what they said. So.
Is it tough being in like the public eye though? I mean, obviously you have, people that will write articles about you for being like the DJ in Jordan Hair, but is it difficult for you to like, for people to just kind of acknowledge you as a human being and your DJing, like correlating the two?
I don't think so. I think generally like I'm very personable. Apparently I don't know. Some people think I'm a dick before they meet me and I don't know why. Cause I really try not to give that, air off. Cause like, I think I'm pretty average. Like, and I try not to be anything that I'm not. And I don't try to portray that either.
And if someone's going to bring negative energy at you, then you're obviously going to dish it back. So
yeah, so if somebody's being a dick to me, then yes.
That's probably where they get it from.
Maybe those stories get passed around. Like, well, he was a dick to me. And I was like, well, I probably was, but what were you doing,
Yeah.
And so maybe people have heard these stories because there's been some people that I've met and they're like, oh, you're actually really nice or something. I'm like, yeah, I don't know why I wouldn't be. And like, well, I thought you'd be a dick. And then people do have preconceived notions of what a DJ should be. So, and that might play a role in it.
So what do you like doing if you're not out partying or working?
I like to eat and talk, honestly, and relax and just go out. And I don't really like to have plans to do things. I just like to exist, I guess.
Do you have any activities or hobbies that you like doing?
I like to stay active. It doesn't even have to be a specific thing. Like generally it's anything that I'm doing something outside. It could be hiking, it could be camping, it could be walking around a city, exploring. Like I'm not big on like doing specific things. It's just like I just like to be there.
Do you play any sports?
No.
No sports. Did you do any like sports when you were in like high school and stuff?
Yeah, so I played basketball in high school. That was okay.
So obviously you're really big on like your social media. And the other day, I think I saw you post something about how if you liked Pepsi more than Coke, that they should go ahead and DM you. So did you get a lot of DMs?
Yes, I did.
Did anything like stand out to you, or did anyone like argue with you?
Oh yeah, a lot of people hated that take because they think Pepsi's inferior, but I just don't think their palates are
as refined.
Yeah, as mine. I think it's got a better bite to it than the other colas. It's just, I think it's a better drink all around.
Did you get a date out of it?
I'm honestly probably not going to date somebody
based on their beverage selection.
It was kind of just a fun thing to do.
So what is it like, just dating in general as a DJ?
It's terrible.
Why?
Well, I mean, I would say it's easier than if you were a normal person, like have a normal job, because you're not meeting as many people. But as far as like if you want a serious relationship, it's kind of hard.
Yeah, just because of insecurities, I'm guessing, because you are around many, many women a lot.
Insecurities, but also time, schedules, because your schedule is going to be different than your average person that's also not probably a DJ. So they're going to live a normal like schedule.
Would you want to date somebody that's like in the scene that actually is like out all the time as well? Or do you veer more towards people that maybe don't go out as much?
I probably prefer someone that's not in the industry. It's odd, but I don't really party and I never have really partied. So it's not a priority of mine. And if it's a priority of somebody else's, like if they want to go out go out and party, it's like I'm not really interested in that.
Yeah.
So it's not high on my list of things that I want to do.
If you were to like, actually go out on a date in Auburn, where would you want to go? You say you like food, so where would you go out to eat?
I have a list of my favorite restaurants. We've got Mexican, it's El Rey. Then we've got a Korean restaurant, Jin Korean. Chicken fingers, of course. That's like my number one. I would do chicken fingers over all these other restaurants any
You would
day.
take a girl on a date. First date, you're going to get chicken
Absolutely.
fingers.
Absolutely. And it's either Fusakli's or Guthrie's. Those are my top chicken finger spots.
After dinner, what are you guys going to do? Obviously, you don't like really going out, so what would be your choice of activity?
Well, I mean, is this first date, second date? Like, where are we at in the dates? Like, because that's like sometimes I'll just go eat and then that'll be the end of the date. Like,
And then you don't talk to them again, or what?
maybe we'll talk during dinner, but then it's like, I think you can overdo it on a first date and spend too much time. I'm like, I just want to get to know this person, see where their head's at, kind of like not over, you're overexposing yourself if you're spending too much time together, I think, on a first date or second date. It's like, I prefer, shorter dates as opposed to longer ones where you're just kind of like hanging out for a little bit and you leave at the perfect time, because like I feel like if you spend too much time together, and it's like, girls will get the idea like, oh my God, this guy is so overbearing. Like, what? It's weird. Like, it's not overbearing, but it's like, does this man not have anything else going on? He just spent all this time.
Okay, I would think that if someone, like, if you were having a good time and you guys were vibing and you just wanted to spend more time with them, that's appropriate. You don't have to cut it off because like you don't want to come off a certain way. You just enjoy each other's time at that point,
They could, but like also, I think,
You don't want to show all your cards at once.
well, it's not all the cards, but it's like, let there be a little bit of suspense and like yearning. Cause like you could give somebody a lot in a first date, and then the next one, it's like you have to live up to that first date. And it's like, oh, this is nothing like the first. I'm not saying that it would be like that, but I think it's better if you leave somebody wanting more.
What are some of the questions that you'll ask in an initial meeting, like to get to know somebody? What's most important for you to know about them?
Their drive and how they feel about themselves, honestly.
So like straight up, you're like, so how are you feeling today?
Well, no, it's just like how they feel about themselves as a whole. Are they strong minded, strong willed? Like, I don't know. These are things that I find attractive. So I don't word it like that, obviously, but it's like you can get an idea of how somebody is and how they feel about themselves. And I think if you have a positive outlook on like yourself and you're not negative, that's something that I would find more attractive. I've had a lot of time to think about those things. So I know.
Well, because you do research.
Yeah. And like so as a DJ, it's like I have a lot of free time too. To think. And I think a lot of people have a lot going on in their lives and they don't get that opportunity to think about things. So,
What are you looking for? Are you looking for a relationship at the moment? Are you dating? Are you single?
so I'm single, and that is probably how it's going to remain until I'm not really like seeking anything right now.
Do you go on like dating apps, or do you just kind of like meet people just being in the bar?
So I don't use dating apps. That just takes a lot out of it for me, I think. I may try it one day. I don't know.
What are you looking for then? Just somebody that's driven, that can match your energy, handle the fact that you are a DJ with weird hours.
Yeah, I mean that, and somebody honestly likes to be lazy and kind of hang out, like because I like to be lazy occasionally, and it's one of those things that I enjoy, but also have their own things going on to where
You're not together 24/7 being lazy together.
right. So I want to have those moments, but it's also I want to have somebody that also has things going on, so that we're not together 24/7, like you said, and we can come together and and enjoy that time and then go back and start doing our things.
Are there any places that you miss in Auburn that's like not there anymore?
Coyotes. Coyotes was a good time. Taquerita. I miss Taquerita. They had some of the best white people tacos around.
I mean, Taco Mama's got some pretty good tacos.
Yeah, it doesn't compare.
What are some of the future plans that you have for yourself?
Future plans. I mean, I'm going to continue doing the things I've been doing. And I've been kind of dabbling, trying to start other businesses, but I haven't found one thing that I'm like stuck to yet. Kind of like trying to figure out other paths to make money that I enjoy.
Well, Ben, thank you so much for coming on to our show. It's been nice chatting with you. And we've got Iron Bowl coming up. So I'm super excited for you to bring all of your cool vibes into the stadium. You got any last words you'd like to tell everybody?
No, I don't. But thank you for having me.
Anytime. And a War Eagle to you.
Thank you.